Okay, should we actually start for real?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay, I'll do a cheesy little intro. All right. Hello, and welcome to the Walking Dead Definitive Series Developers Commentary. Did you say oh? In the
Wait,
middle
my
of
microphone's not on, or I don't hear
Damn it.
anything. Sorry.
Damn
Because I
it.
switched out packs.
I
Sorry.
just
Do you hear anything?
just turn it up.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
turn it up. There you
Oh,
go.
now it's on.
Oh, it
Okay,
sounds
cool.
good. doesn't
He's
it?
a story
Is
guy.
that better?
He's a story
Sorry,
guy.
okay, cool.
Okay, take 7.
Okay, here we go. Hello, and welcome to the Walking Dead Definitive Series Developers Commentary track. I think there's enough words in that title. My name is Kent Mutil. I am creative director of the final season and a cinematic artist on this season. And I am joined by an all-star cast of other developers who also worked on the season, and they are, in sequence,
Dennis Lenart. I was a director and, head of cinematic department and been at Telltale forever.
OG.
Really, truly. I am Melissa Hutchison, and I am the voice of Clementine.
And I'm Dave Fenoy, and I am not a developer, but I am the voice of Lee Everett.
And I'm Julian Kwasniewski, and I did the voice direction and involved in casting and babysitting the talent.
Which is a task.
I'm so glad someone did that.
And I worked in what became known as the fun office.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
That's right.
Oh, boy.
Studio
Oh, boy.
Jory.
Studio
Except
Jory
for
was
a
the fun
couple
office.
specific days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to play through the first episode of the first season and just talk about memories of making it as we go. So
What if we can't remember that far back?
I know,
I'm
right?
just kidding.
make up stuff. No one will know the difference.
Just correct
It
me.
was a long time ago.
Before we start, I just want to give a shout out to Sean Vanneman, Jake Rodkin.
Yeah.
Yes.
We wish could be here, but couldn't, and we'll try to talk about as much stuff as we remember
Who are they now?
to get them. Yeah, they were only the leads on this season. But yeah, we definitely wouldn't be here without them, and
Yes.
they made a lot of amazing decisions that we got to work with on the rest of the season. So.
Amen. Hallelujah.
Here, here. They make good video games. All right,
Yes.
let's start. But this is also a good video game.
100 Game of the Year awards.
Over.
That's true. More Game
I
of the Year
believe.
awards than it seems possible.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Just inventing companies. To
Sean
give
will
awards.
remember this.
And so begins.
Hey, we're in the Skybound offices right now. Look at that.
What?
Yep.
This has come real full circle.
Seriously.
So all the episode titles, or the title card of The Walking Dead, I remember having different colors, which was a Jake thing planned out from the beginning. Random detail that I didn't know when I was working on episode 2, and I changed the color, and then he came to me and went, "Why are you
Oh, that's
not doing
awesome.
the thing we're supposed to do?" I was like, "Oh, whoops,
There he is.
it's good."
Wow. There he is.
There's Sean Bannerman.
Hey.
Sean Bannerman.
Yay! Hey, Jake, Sean.
I like Sean's Vanneman. Hey, there's Mark Barbalack.
Oh yeah.
Who's also the legal counsel
Yes,
for
the
Telltale.
attorney for Telltale Games.
This the rearview mirror shot weirdly was like the most complicated technical thing we'd ever done in the Telltale engine at the time.
Do it, Dan.
Isn't there like an entire second lead just sitting outside the side of the car when we see the shots of him reflected in the window?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
With just like a render constant alpha low or something. Yeah.
Record.
But I remember hearing the pitch for this and thinking that starting in the back of a cop car on your way to jail was a pretty awesome setting for starting a game, and immediately people just getting invested and wanting to figure out
What's
what's
going
happening.
on? Yeah.
Who is this guy?
I love all
what's
the little
past?
things you see out the window, too.
Not from me.
Yeah, this is a good
I feel like that was the station wagon that the stranger has in episode 2 that
Oh,
we just
that's
passed.
cool.
Yeah.
It's probably just a reuse of we needed car models at the time.
I think we added him in the collection. One
He's
version of this,
passing
I
in the
think he was
wrong
put in.
lane.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure from
That's
a
awesome.
design standpoint, the idea of starting really limited for people in you just get control over the camera to sort of get comfortable with moving it around before you're actually in free walks and having to navigate in space as well.
I got a nephew up at UT. You teach there long?
Yep. I think Eric Parsons worked on all of this stuff for
Yeah.
a long time. Typically at Telltale, the first scenes of any game go under extreme amounts of scrutiny. So
That's me on the radio.
Was that you?
Yeah.
You're all over
I'm
the
the answering
place.
machine. I'm the radio. I take
Yeah.
the big gigs.
There
Yeah.
are no small parts,
There
only
aren't.
small
That's
actors.
right.
Man, I got paid a lot for that, too.
Regardless,
He's got a bit of his own
We know
agency
that.
as a character. He's not totally just the player.
You know what I remember is doing this first episode. 20 minutes in, I was like, "Wow, this is really good.
Mm-hmm.
this is just good writing.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
I was really happy that I got this gig.
As we
I think
we
we
all
all
are.
are really
Yeah,
happy that
definitely.
you got this
And what
gig.
was great is those were the days
very
when
mutual.
we flew them up, and so Dave would stay in Fairfax at the inn.
At the one hotel.
and you introduced me to all your radio buddies, like Dave Padilla.
Oh, Dave Padilla.
We partied with Dave.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Be on an airplane, not telling
When I
how.
was on the radio on KSOL in the Bay Area in the 80s, Dave was my news guy.
That's so funny. I hear him all the time.
Oh, yeah. KCBS.
Mama, it's all a big mistake. It wasn't me.
It's good.
Maybe he was innocent.
There you go.
And you know, you can't just say man. You really got to get that feeling. Man.
Achieved. You achieved.
Some of your finest acting work.
Bloody murder that it wasn't him. I think he actually believed it himself. It goes to show. People.
I definitely remember excitement around the office when there was a big search to find a Lee character, and it was a long, hard journey. And then I remember as soon as, oh god, now everything's coming off the rails.
Oh,
I can just keep going.
look out.
As soon as we heard your voice and audition, everybody, it was just like the whole office was like, all right, cool, cast, done.
That's
Like, and it was like
him.
amazing moment.
Well, we found Dave because he played a character in a Law and Order game, right?
Yeah.
We played
Right.
Montrose.
Montrose.
I was
villainous
a
self-help guru.
crooked politician.
Yep.
Well, and then also with Melissa as well, I remember in the early days, like Sean talking about how like nothing will work in this game if we don't have a good Clementine, and that was like the
Exactly.
big worry.
So
It was just
true.
like there's got to be someone to balance out like the strength that Dave brings for his performance, and like obviously just having someone who can really embody that character and make her not feel like the typical video game kid, which all other video game
Right.
like children were till that
Weren't
time.
you guys
so.
also auditioning
Well, I was
actual
going to say we
children?
did that. Yeah, and I have a bunch of them that I listen to, and they're all kids, but they could never have the
Emotional range.
gravity that
It's a pretty
that you needed some
heavy
wisdom in
game.
there. It gets heavy.
This is a kid that goes through a lot.
Well, and also just the aging over the seasons.
Right.
You know,
Which wasn't known that
Like-
would happen, actually.
Yeah.
I don't
but
think that
just
was the
imagine
intention
if a kid had
going
you
into
know
season one.
gone off to college or something, and wait, we need you in this game.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. You can't go to college.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather personally voice acting college.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
I mean,
choose
come
voice
on.
acting, but that's just me, and that's what I did.
Well, and I think
Boom, that's my story.
on a developer side too, Sean and Jake from like the very early days always sort of talked to the team about, treat Clementine as an adult. Like
Yeah.
think of her as that as opposed to a kid when you're making choices. And it definitely was a thing that made all the difference in the world because people
Right.
immediately throw out all the tropes you think and then like really sort of get your head into the character when you're sort of doing animation stuff or putting together the cinematics and
Well, and what you're speaking on as far as the children, you really see that, especially when she's reflecting in scenes with Duck. 'Cause
Yes.
Duck
Yeah, totally.
is that
Yeah.
kid that
Absolutely.
Yeah.
he was the kid that
I'm gonna
Lee
drive
found,
the
it would be like,
tractor.
this, yeah.
yep.
Okie dokie, Duck.
this was a great. I
Yeah.
love this whole scene.
It's such a good like horror setup.
Yeah, it's
Here, let me go help this this cop that was driving. He looks injured.
You know what's interesting about this, and Dennis and Kent, I might be totally wrong,
It's a cop.
but not too many people at Telltale were actually watching, and here I am sitting in Skybound. We're not. This is like really. There wasn't like hardcore like, oh, I watched the show.
I know,
every
and we
week.
were-
It was
we would tell-
all
we were
comic
watching it.
book.
Hadn't the show
Yeah.
just started?
It was
Yeah.
like
Like
going
around
into
the time
the
this game
second
coming out?
season because
wasn't-
I was a fan of the show.
yeah,
The show had been on how many seasons?
I think it was going either finishing second season or going into the second season.
yeah. And it was great. Like I was watching it. I actually only meant to watch a few episodes to like get. We were still doing sound at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and just to see how they did the ambiances and what the zombies sound like, and then I got hooked on it.
Right. Yeah, I did too.
Yeah, I was watching it, but not a lot. But it was a show that I was sampling because everybody was, oh, well, you got to watch the
Yeah,
Walking
yeah.
Dead."
Right. No, it was.
And then I really did when this audition came up.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
And I remember episode 1 or 2, Rolling Stone magazine came out and said the game is better than the TV show.
yeah, I remember.
Drop your mic. Just knock
Yeah.
it over right now. Boom.
Then there's something I want to ask about here. I remember this part being. I remember at one point the entire game was first person,
Yeah, so
and there was some kind of somewhat kind of late change.
one of the things that's relevant to bring up is one of the early sort of conceits of the game, where I remember Sean and Jake talking a lot about how like players never care about their character dying because you know they're going to come back in 20 seconds after the load
Right.
screen. But investing in time in other characters to make it seem like they could die at any time was sort of like the big twist of what made this game really interesting.
And
is
it
'cause you're
was. I
always-
think it's what people really got invested in these characters more than I'd ever seen on
For sure.
anything. Yeah.
You know, it's funny because when we would go to, and it still happens, to go to conventions, and we were able to do some together, what people would say is, I've never cared about characters in a video game before.
Right.
And then you and Clementine
yeah.
made me cry.
I saw you. We were at what was it, Dragon Con Atlanta. You were talking to someone, and someone was coming up to our line, and he just heard your voice. And this is a grown man, and he stood there, and he just started to like tears out of his eyes, cry.
That's because I
Just
owed him
hearing-
money.
But no, it's to see this effect. It's. I mean, people share like the craziest
Yeah.
stories of how this game has taken them through like the
Yeah.
shittiest of times, or they've met their best friends, or tra la la. Like so many like
I've
crazy
met,
stories.
I've met people who didn't have a dad that said Lee became their surrogate father.
That is
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've cried at conventions.
Yeah.
I've reached points where people tell me things that
Yeah.
I'm just it's overwhelmingly moving.
I remember you both and a couple other people saying that too. That when you experienced that, it was really surreal at first
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, as far as working with Telltale, because I go way back with Telltale games, you know,
Yeah.
and most of the characters I've played have all been comedy, too. So this was the first, well, not even with Telltale. This is the first game I worked on where there's just so much emotional depth and story. And Hashtag,
I
thank
have been
you,
on.
Telltale.
I've been on a bunch of games, but this was clearly the best script that I had done, and it had the most interaction with other characters, and just
Well, and this will probably be a great time to mention, and not just because you're in the room, Julian, but he, I mean, beyond The Walking Dead, any game I've ever worked on with you or any project, but when you read with us, because obviously we don't record together,
Right.
actors in the same room together, and you directing us, you really performed. Which is amazing because you'll have someone read lines with you sometimes, but you
Yeah.
read the lines because
That's a good point.
An actor.
And-
Well, we didn't have feeders then.
Oh,
So
yeah.
literally the first actor to go set the tone for the whole damn episode. And so yeah, that's where we would, because I always would work closely with Dennis or Sean or whoever was in the booth with me,
Right.
and we would say like this scene is really quiet, or they're 20 feet away, so I would try to mimic that.
But it is a good point to bring up because I remember we would as sort of like the dev team be in a session with like Julian all day and 3 or 4 different actors would come in and we're just going through like this 10-hour marathon.
Totally.
But yeah, at 6 p.m. like Julian's still like giving it his all,
Yeah.
like reading all the other
Right,
parts
right.
against it, and we're just like, I was just tired
How
sitting
does he
there.
do that? Yeah. So Rebecca Schweitzer, I just have to mention that
Yeah.
the
That's
answering
her.
machine
Yeah.
is such a small
point. That's
part
great.
of this
And-
first
and
episode.
that's
she
her
just
audition.
Nailed it. And that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
That's her audition, and it was used in the game. And it was
And-
also used in a trailer, and it was one of the most effective trailers
was.
that I remember.
wow.
Yeah, and it was the
Seeing for
first
this.
time where we took an audition and then we went back to the agents and said, "Oh, and that's me as the answering machine voice."
Nice.
If we were
I
drinking right
really-
now,
all the
we'd
big
do
parts.
shots every
I'm
time
s-
we hear Julian.
I'm still spending those 20s. That was a good one. But yeah, no, Rebecca, and we processed the audition and then went back and said, "You got the role. You never have to come in. You're done."
That's awesome.
That's
We
always a
don't
nice
want to
call.
see you, but
Yeah, exactly.
we're going to use your voice.
Awesome.
I
And
love
we
those.
might send you a check.
I love how the messages too. I just heard them when we were at the office with Kent the other day. Just how they progress. oh, there's some crazy guy at the ER or whatever, and
yeah.
I love how she
she
just covers
nailed
the
it.
entire
Just goes on for
She's
it.
apocalypse
like, said it. She
in
really
4
said
It's a
minutes.
very
that.
efficient zombie apocalypse story in like
Yeah,
3
totally.
lines, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This was a scary. I remember this being. This is an awesome scene.
I think those parents would have left their kid with a babysitter.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Here she comes. This was a step up cinematically for Telltale as well too. Before we were doing mostly adventure games, with Jurassic Park, there was an effort to sort of be more film-like, but it was more action-y than anything, and I felt like this was a big step forward. It was a big challenge, I know, for the department
There she
to
is.
get subtle with it.
Yeah, no, and I just think the visual style too was just so.
Oh. Well, there's the
there's the
babysitter,
babysitter.
Dave.
Hey, it's Sandra. Oh, good old button mashing.
Oh, God.
Sorry, I stepped on your introduction, but that was,
it's
that was
yeah,
Clementine.
how
There she
dare
was.
you. That's
fair,
okay.
Oh, and Lee just
I'll
slipped on
be
the blood.
around for a
He is
while.
so slippery.
That was a contentious back and forth, I think,
About how
of the
slippery
slipping
it
on
should
the
be.
blood. Yeah,
Well, he's got a bad leg. And,
yeah.
he hasn't seen zombies before.
Here we go.
Give me
This-
that hammer.
Give me that
Give
hammer.
me that hammer.
I love that their
Quickly,
relationship
child.
starts with her saving him.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
really
that's
nice.
cool.
Yeah.
So Becky Arkovich worked on this babysitter stuff for I don't even know how many months.
A lot.
But it was the first big action scene in the game that was sort of a new style of what we were doing. So this went through so many iterations and ripped up and redone, and she stuck through it and made an awesome thing.
That's amazing to me.
Good
how-
voiceover there. Good effects.
You
Yeah.
sound a lot like him
I
too.
when we did the episode, season 4, just hearing some of like who works. Oh, actually, at the playthrough in Oakland for the final episode of season 4, I was sitting next to a woman named Cadet, and she like. I was like, oh, well, what did you do at Telltale? And she specifically worked on, and now I'm going to screw it up. Sorry, Cadet. But I think it was the flashback at Erickson's. Anyways, you may know.
She did all the dream sequences in season 4, Cadet.
Yes, but it's like, it's so, like, you don't, I forget how,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
well, here's your one
Yep.
thing that you're going to be working on, and,
That was the
she
cool
didn't
thing.
know the end
Yeah.
of the game when I'm not going to spoil it for those or whatever, but when something big happened, she was like, oh my God, and I'm like, oh, you didn't know about this?
Yeah.
She's like,
Yeah, you
no,
can
I
get-
literally only worked on this scene.
In your own world
That was the
sometimes.
Yeah.
cool thing about Telltale. There are so many, and so many of them we just knew from bugs or from email, and you'd finally meet someone like, oh my God, that's you? And
You don't look
Yeah.
anything
You don't look like your
what
name.
I thought
Yeah.
you'd look like.
but they would spend so much time on
Just one like
little
Becky
piece.
and the babysitter. Wow,
And
that'd be a
there's
great
the hat.
movie. Or,
that's the album.
It's great.
yeah. Oh, the hat. Yay.
Yeah.
It's funny, I was looking at the dialogue file for the
Legacy.
scene, and the final version of the babysitter fight that ended up being the folder just says Andrew's new babysitter fight, or new baby fight.
Yeah, that's good.
Because there's like a bunch of folders of like iterations of the babysitter fight still
Yeah.
in the dialogue
Baby
file.
Fight 17.
And the final one, I guess, must have been Andrew Langley.
Yep.
Langley.
Well, he
Yeah.
probably wired it up and
Yeah.
helped with the design on it. Yeah. But I remember that's the thing a lot of people don't realize about games is usually when they ship, specifically Telltale games because it's such a quick episodic schedule, there's so much stuff that is just left over that's cut or things that like
Yeah.
whole scenes that are
In the game.
there, you
Yeah.
know. And actually nowadays people have sort of developed tools where they can rip that stuff
I love
out
that.
and it's great.
What's the matter?
Should I stay?
What?
I don't want to sleep in the treehouse tonight, but I don't know if I should leave. What if my parents come home?
They won't. We should go.
Then they'll find me, right?
I won't leave you alone, okay? Hey, man!
Holy shit.
Don't eat us! We're not gonna hurt you.
Yeah. Thought for a second you and the little one were both gonna give us the chomp.
Do you know what the hell this is?
No idea. So you've seen them then?
You could say that.
I'm Sean. Sean Green.
Lee, this is Clementine.
Oh, look, little Clem.
There's Chet.
Chet, that's his name. I was trying
I
to
was gonna
remember.
ask who are these guys again?
That's Sean Green. He's a canon comic character.
Yeah.
Oh.
And Chet has become kind of a meme on the internet because he wants to get home for hot dish.
So Sean's really good at finding random details that people remember like that just make everything feel grounded, which is pretty funny.
It makes him round him as a character.
Yeah.
I understand that he wants that hot dish.
It's this motivation.
Who voiced those guys? Do you remember, Julian?
Chet was
Sorry to-
Brian Davis.
Oh yeah, cool.
And
I think I remember that.
Let's go.
Well,
wow,
These guys are strong.
strong guys.
The parking brake wasn't on. It's fine.
There was some comment. There was like fans made a lot of videos of they took scenes and then they turned them into comedies. And there's one where Lee's rolling around town in the truck, blasting music, and he's like, I can't find it. I tried to find it.
Oh,
for the
yeah,
band.
I've seen that.
It was so freaking
great.
funny.
What was he playing? Snoop?
No, yeah, all you hear is bass. And then he stops and he gets out of the car. Well,
Look
he
at the
gets out of the
animation.
car and he like goes in the house and then he comes back out.
That's great.
Yeah.
I
And the car's
almost.
vibrating. It was
Yeah, I
awesome.
want to say, well, people have too much time on their hands, but when gems like that pop up, I'm just
Oh, I
so
love it.
grateful for human beings
I know,
who
me
put
too.
the time
I
into
agree.
doing
It's
those
really cool.
things.
I
You know,
think-
my favorite thing used to be after, at least on in sort of the early days, like season 1 style, where an episode would come out and I would just watch playthroughs that night of like
Yeah.
people live streaming it and just seeing their reactions. It's super fun.
Totally, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is it. It was this scene, and then he turns off the stereo, gets out.
Are we about to meet Andy St.
I wouldn't
John?
even know
Oh,
how
yeah.
to find that.
Really quick, I'll dive back into a thing from earlier. The first-person prototype. So the origin of this game. There was an early sort of zombie. We call it the spinning plates prototype.
Yeah.
Maybe even a year before this, like actual production started on this, where it was an attempt to find just a sort of a new way of storytelling and figuring out like what mechanics we could use to get people invested in characters in a scene and like have things going on where they have to make tough choices and there's an imminent threat. So Zombies was a place to start. The relationship with Skybound had been sort of slowly forming, and we got the eventual suggestion of like, oh, maybe this could, like, we could turn this into something that's Walking Dead based, which was super exciting for everybody because we were really stoked to work on it.
That's cool.
But that one, actually, I don't remember if the original prototype was first person, but then once we sort of started in earnest on season 1, kind of just at a high level concept. Carl and Eric Parsons and Sean and Jake worked on a first-person prototype that we use the motor in environment, and you'd basically walk around in first person. Everything happened in first person. There was no third-person cinematics, and it was a whole scene that was playable. And I hope someone has it out there.
I
You
know,
can see it
that'd be
someday, 'cause
really
It was really
interesting
interesting.
to see.
And then that turned into a version where it was sort of half first person, half third person, and
Got
there was
it.
a prototype for that as well,
What
which
was-
actually worked really well too.
What was the one that was in? I know it was the Home Depot office, and it was the. They were in like a medical facility or
The morgue.
the morgue.
Yeah,
They were-
that was a test environment. Yeah, there was. I don't know if legally we can say what we used,
Oh, okay.
but there were other characters
Other people.
from other IPs that were just laying around in the
Yeah.
Telltale tool, and so a
laying
prototype
around.
was made
Oh, that's
using
cool,
a bunch
'cause
of
I remember
those
seeing- that was the
characters,
first
Max
time I saw it.
characters and all sorts of stuff.
I was
so-
totally off the mark, by the way. This is not Andy St. John. We're not quite there yet. This is Herschel.
Oh yeah.
So
This
I
is-
just
yeah.
need to correct myself because I know there's someone out there right now going, "Whoa, she's wrong."
It's been tweeted many times.
Thankfully, this isn't
God.
live. Edit
There's
that
a
out.
there's a farm
Clementine doesn't know
per
what's
episode.
going on.
Chuck Carucalis.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
Chuck played Herschel.
Chuck.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was
Oh.
Herschel, the deepest voice
Oh yeah,
in the
Chuck's
industry.
got
Did I
quite the
miss
vocals on him?
the callback where Sean Green introduces you and Herschel asks who you are, and
That
he
stuff
calls
did.
back your
That
choice.
stuff did happen.
Okay.
I'm actually unsure if I played it correctly.
So the really quick, it's worth pointing out that early, I guess we probably did miss it. Early in the development, when all these scenes were coming together, the idea of the player making choices in dialogue that were then called back later and made you feel like the game was listening to you wasn't really, like, no one really knew if it was going to work or if people are going to care that much. And
Yeah.
I remember that moment where you first meet Clementine, you, I guess can say, when you when
say you're like a
you
babysitter
basically,
or a
yeah, you're a
neighbor.
babysitter or a neighbor or whatever, and then when you get to the scene and you're introduced by Sean as the neighbor or the babysitter or whatever choice you made earlier, and that was, I remember a thing, it went around the office where everyone was like, oh man, I played that scene? It's really cool. And even though it's just a small, subtle choice, it really made you feel like the game was listening to every small choice you made. And I think that was a really important moment for making people feel like, okay, going forward, like any dialogue choice I make could come back and have
That's cool,
ramifications,
yeah.
which was really cool to see. That was when I remember seeing it and going like, maybe this could work out. It'd
Oh
be really cool.
man.
The Herschel scene is a really good
cool.
tutorial for that because he catches you in
Yeah.
almost anything you lie about, and he'll call back to it.
I'm like, I want to fangirl out on both of you guys now. Oh my god, I'm actually sitting next to the people who made this game. I mean,
We
it's
just remember stories.
remarkable. I know,
Yeah.
but the stories, I mean, led to like
I know it's funny. Like it's just a day
this
at the office.
amazing.
Yeah.
You know,
and how
Changing
deep
the
in the
industry.
weeds you have to get technically to do these things
Yeah.
that show up on screen and plays. I mean, it just makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah.
Oh, if I go do this, this happens, and
Yeah.
get on this
Bada
path.
bing.
If I do this,
Yep.
Yeah.
the one thing you guys did screw up though, you
Uh-oh.
could not save Lee.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I remember that. Yeah,
Assholes.
The technology just wasn't advanced enough yet.
Well, yeah, right. Yes. I think we met the day that you found out, right? Didn't
Yeah,
we meet?
yeah.
We met
You guys
when
had
I
met
was
before
going
then?
in for
Because-
episode
'cause the
3.
nature of
I
video
was
ga-
doing laundry.
Yeah,
which is
the
weird.
nature of video games is that you had a session after
in
me.
Fairfax. I brought my laundry to Fairfax.
Why
That's
not?
funny.
The nature of video games is 99 and 44 100% of the time you're working by yourself. So, and since I was a guy that came up from LA, and just about everybody else in the game at that point were San Francisco actors who Telltale had used a lot, and
Yeah.
a really good crew of actors, by the way, many of whom have moved to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
But I kept thinking, wow, I'd really like to meet all these. And I'm walking down the street. I'm going to get lunch. And she walks up to me. Oh, Dave and hi. I'm Melissa. I'm Clem.
Uncanny
And it
Melissa
was
It was. I know. It was spot on.
Yeah,
And
we're
it was
spot on.
instant friendship.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. This whole season in general with all of us who.
I totally.
And then I don't think it was that visit, but you came back up and Jory
it was a-
and
it was
you
a
guys
next visit.
organized the Thai food outing.
that was fun.
I was, I
got
was so
pictures.
impressed with the project, the other actors, that I asked to listen. Who
Yeah.
Wozniacki, who are these people?
Let's make an
Can
effort
we
to meet
can we
each
get
other.
them together and have dinner?
And they all
Yeah.
there was a pilgrimage
Which
to
is rare.
Fairfax.
Yeah.
It's rare. It's
Yeah.
rare that
And,
that
uh,
happens.
But we also, yeah, I mean, some of
And I picked up the check, and nobody ever paid me.
Sorry. I'll buy you a coffee.
I forgot.
This is where we introduced Sissy Jones.
Katya.
Katya. And I was on a panel with her at a voiceover conference talking about video games, and she revealed that this was the first video game
Yeah.
she had ever done.
And she she didn't tell me right away. She told me months later, maybe even years later.
Her first gig, right?
Yeah.
I think it was like her first gig out of
It was.
out of the gates.
And
She's been
she was
tearing it up ever
Yeah,
since.
know.
jeez.
she's a yeah,
She's
awesome.
a force to be reckoned with.
A boss.
Yeah. And it's tricky because I remember getting the auditions for Katya, and I didn't read for Katya because it was like Danish.
Yeah,
and I
screw
was like,
this.
"What?"
I'm not doing
It
that.
would sound I would totally offend. I don't even know what that is. How do you do like this?
Wow.
Finesse this.
Especially when you haven't done you have never been in a studio.
Yeah, she nailed it.
Also,
The
Kenny
first
here,
grade.
Gavin Hammond, hanging
Kenny?
out in the corner fixing a truck.
Oh, yeah.
In his,
Kenny.
in his
First
el-
introduction.
Oh,
in his
there's
elements.
Doug.
Awesome. Yeah.
We'll be talking with Kenny.
Lee's
Yeah, he'll
best
be here
friend,
later.
worst enemy at the same time.
Duck is also in his element, pretending to do something.
And Duck is
Well, how can it bounce?
Duck is Max Kaufman, Ryan Kaufman's son.
Yep.
And for a little while, it was my son, and then the
I
battle
know
of the sons, and he,
Oh, man.
you
Your
won
kid
this
was
time.
about Duck's age at that
Ryan.
time. Too.
Yeah, they both were the
Yeah,
same
now
age.
he's like an adult. It's crazy. I'm telling you. What a difference 7 years makes.
I know, totally. Wow,
He's going off
they're
to
all grown up.
college. Yeah.
That'd be great.
Let's just chop this
I'm
wood
just
here.
gonna saw this.
I guess I'm sawing now.
Might as well do some work.
Look useful.
Is it interactive sawing?
It is not.
Okay.
Not so far.
I feel like
A lot
there
of
was
that hammering. It looked really
the weird
great.
thing about all of this stuff is there's definitely coming from a place where we were making adventure games mostly before and it was a lot of puzzle solving. Going into this, where it was a more cinematic focused game, there was always attempts to find interactivity anywhere you could. So I feel like there's lots of these moments which at some point were probably wired up as like button presses until we got
Make
it in there
them
and then went, nah, why would you saw? It's not fun. But who knows
they're
if
building
this is
a
one of
fence
those, but-
though.
Yeah.
Got to keep those
Gotta
zombies out.
secure the.
I can totally see how in some Telltale titles that this would just be a button mash.
Exactly. Yeah.
There was always stuff like that.
Just saw.
Especially in some of the later Telltale games, it was like this cutscene just goes on forever. We got to put a button press in somewhere, right? Make them wiggle the stick for a second.
He's
Wiggle a
practicing
stick.
up for that arm later on.
Yeah.
Oh, that arm
Those
stuff is so
those
horrific.
little Sean, she'll remember this. That was did that start in Walking Dead?
It did. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a thing that I think came pretty late in the process, actually.
Yeah.
There was, I mean, again, like the development time on this season, like it was really rough working on
Yeah.
this game. Ultimately paid off in a great way, and that it
Right.
came out as something really cool. But Telltale as a company was sort of trying to find like what's the next sort of version of a sort of cinematic interactive dialogue game we can do. And so a lot of things were tried on, especially this episode was sort of a test ground.
First
so-
episode, of course.
Yeah, I know, right?
It feels very experimental in a lot of ways.
It was.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff that works, and there's a lot of stuff that then we did and worked here and didn't
And
do
I
later.
think this was the only one where the script was ready days before I got there.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes those scripts were coming in 20 minutes before.
Being written on.
Or
Yeah.
no. There were
Yeah.
times where Sean would be like, "Okay, just start on this scene," and then he
Yep.
would go in the next room, and then he'd
Finish
come
some
back.
stuff up, yeah.
I've got it.
Wow.
Pierre was
Yeah.
always good at doing that too.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
It's,
always at least one person with their head
Yeah, totally.
head buried in the laptop.
Or I remember going into the studio with times where we're like, we haven't figured this scene out yet.
Right,
We're going to
totally.
record a bunch of things,
get 'em
and
all.
then we'll figure it out in
And
the
we'll
edit,
see
kind of.
you, or we'll see you next
Yeah.
week, probably.
Well, we did that. I guess we can
Mostly
talk
in later
about it.
games.
And hence the pickups.
Pickups.
Yeah,
Right.
lots of
I'm not
pickups.
sure if that was Jolene season 2 or was that?
She was episode 2 of season 1.
Okay, so then I can talk about it. So yeah, Sissy. I feel like it was 400 days, but Mark Darren was season 2, right?
Episode 2
It's episode
of season.
Two.
I meant episode 2.
Yeah.
Okay, this is where I need your help because
Yes.
my brain
Yeah,
is
yeah,
That's
yeah.
erased.
fair. That's, don't worry.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
I mean, you only turned
Episode
21 once.
Yeah,
But,
Mark and I
um,
worked on that together for a long
Okay,
time.
so we did. Sissy was pregnant, and we recorded her stuff, and in true Telltale fashion, you test it, and we'd come back and have pickups, and Sissy calls me one day, and she says, I'm really pregnant, and so if you guys are going to need anything, I'm going to be kind of offline for a little while. So I called Mark Darren and told him the story, and he said, all right, I'll go write some stuff, And he
Let me get on that.
he wrote a bunch of stuff that may be useful, and she went to a studio in LA. We did a remote session with her. She read through it all, and her last line was, "You fucking junkie!" And then she said, "Okay, you need anything else?" And we were all good. And then she went to the hospital from the studio.
Wow.
So
Gave
her
birth.
her last professionally spoken line as a non-mother was
Yeah.
"You fucking junkie." No, but we all just we spent, especially on this project where the characters were recurring, and you're dealing with so many different emotions, and in some case dying or watching people die, and I don't know. All of us actors, all of the actors and me, and a lot of the Telltale guys. We hang out.
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
we're
that's
still-
that's
for sure.
another. I
It
mean,
was like.
getting to know the folks that
Yeah.
when you work on a game, you usually meet the director, you meet a couple of the producers or whoever
Yeah.
happens to be in the session. But
Yeah, we met everyone.
we became we met everyone. We made it a point to meet
Yeah,
everyone. It
and-
wasn't just like,
Yeah.
well, who
And
wrote
you
this?
guys
Who
would
cares? It
come
was like,
by-
I need to meet this person.
For sure, and for a while I was doing, we called it Wine Fridays, and it would just be in my apartment,
Oh, Wine
and we would just
Fridays.
have a ton of developers over, and we would just hang out and play
I
video
got
games and
Skyped
drink.
into a couple of those.
I
that's
think you
awesome.
did, yeah.
That's so
And,
great.
but yeah, we would invite like the actors out, and you guys would all come out and get to sort of meet everybody who was working on the
Totally,
game, and they were
totally.
like starstruck to meet you guys. It was just a fun.
It was so
And from the actor's point of view, what was one of the things that was interesting when the first episode came out, and the media, the game media, started writing really wonderful articles about it. They mentioned that the acting was good, but they didn't mention any actors.
Right.
And I remember, wait a minute,
I'm one of those.
what the
actors.
hell?
Damn it.
And
You just leave a comment in the comment
And
section.
I-
That's me.
Lovely.
I wrote a response to, I forget which magazine and which writer, but I said, hey, I'm Dave Fennoy. I play Lee Everett. And I noticed you mentioned how good the acting was, but you didn't mention any of the actors, and there was so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. And after that, and I said, don't you? And he was like, oh, wow, no, great, love it.
Right.
Oh, yeah, well, happy to
I
mention
never
the
knew.
actor. That's exactly it.
Well,
So I never knew.
Yeah.
At this time, too, I mean, I don't know, again, this was a long time ago, but games weren't as cinematic. Well, I mean, Telltale games were. I should
Yeah,
not
but
say that.
it was
But
it was
this
a new
was like
animal.
a whole
more adventure
new
gaming.
Oh.
voice acting. It wasn't
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah. It kind of borrowed from different things. And
This game changed the video game industry.
Well, and we've
Game
talked about this
changing.
where the games that ran up to Walking Dead, like Jurassic Park, wasn't a big success for Telltale, but the things we had to do technically with people whispering and screaming and getting their arms ripped off, all those things and techniques were things that going into Walking Dead we didn't have to learn. We just knew
Well, I hope
we knew
you're
how to
all right.
do that stuff.
But now you've got this little girl to take care of. Clementine, is it? You just stumbled up on her?
I was being attacked and she came to my rescue.
Can I give you a piece of advice?
Mind your own business.
I don't know who you are or what you did. Let's say things don't get better back in the cities, or they get worse before they do. You're going to have to depend on the honesty of strangers if you're going to make it. And if those same people get to questioning yours, you're going to be in trouble. Oh, and trying to be less of an asshole would serve you just fine.
Go! I'll get my gun!
My leg is stuck.
I got you!
Yeah, that was a good.
I totally forgot Lee just punches that zombie. Just punched it right in the head. He had no greater plan.
Punk.
Because Lee was
Taking risks.
badass.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, no.
Wow, Clem was affected by that.
Oh, God.
Well,
This is a cool comic
We're
time
gonna
too.
have
This
to
is the
leave
start
the
of him
farm.
putting first of putting the walkers in the barn, right?
Yeah.
That
Oh
was like
yeah.
intentional call
that's
into what happens in the
right.
comics.
That was a great thing in the TV show
Yeah.
was when that Walker fell in the well, and they were lifting him out, and he tore in half.
Oh, the
And I was like,
That is a
oh
really
my
tremendous
the
visual effect.
decomposed
terrible. Yeah, the
wasabi
water's
Walker.
gonna taste horrible.
No, I know, right? Well, let's drink the water. But yeah, that's
Ah, Kenny.
Kenny.
Or just call it zombie juice then.
Zombie.
Right. We should have marketed that.
I think there's a Walking Dead line
Telltale
called The Walking
zombie
Bread.
juice.
Well, there is. It's Skybound's actually,
Yeah.
Skybound
and it's actually quite
zombie
good.
juice.
Excellent.
When you want to feel like a zombie.
I thought I didn't
Look
have
at
to make a
Katya.
choice.
She's just like, whatever.
Yeah.
I could help them both.
Man.
Yeah, weirdly this scene too. It was so early on, and a lot of it is talking before this action moment. And there's a lot of questions when doing playtests and just developers playing through of like, is this too much narrative and character and not
Right.
enough interactivity? And so it was great that this scene ended up working really well, and I think it sort of allowed us later on to feel more confident going forward with. Like, the St. John's Farm in episode 2 and
Yeah,
having those
that
moments
was
where you
fun.
could just hang out and sit around with characters and talk, which ended up being something that got you really invested, and then you cared about when they died, if they did later.
How do you feel looking at this now, Dennis, because it's just the way that these episodes, and it was across all parts of the game, but it would be just frenetic pace, and then at one point it's like, oh my god, it shipped,
Yeah.
So I know, watching back when I watched a few playthroughs just preparing for this, and realized that all the episodes have blended together now, so that I was worried about that. But I would watch things and think, wow, that's just how I'd probably do it still. And do you feel? I mean, obviously there's technological advances, but how do you feel looking at this?
So since I was the head of the cinematics department at the time, knowing, like, it's definitely scenes I look at and remember, oh, I remember this person working on this scene.
Yeah, right.
And like how much we rewrote stuff and then that affected their lives, and I felt really bad about it. So it's weirdly, I think a lot about that. And actually at the end of this episode, there's like the moment with the woman in the hotel room that killed herself, and one of the cinematic artists, Graham Ross, for like a month was working on that scene, and we would go and ask him to go to lunch, and he would just like take off his headphones and look at us sullenly and just be like,
my God,
I can't. And
the
and
telltale
we ask him,
gaze.
yeah, we're just like, what are you working on? And he was just like, I'm just listening to like sad music and like, things that make me feel awful. And he was just in that zone for like a month. But it pays off, and the stuff is really
totally.
good. So, but
Julian, that's
That's
just
called
instead
suffering
of,
for your art.
Instead of the 1,000
He's mentally
yard,
ill now.
You always gave me the 1,000-yard gaze.
Yeah,
You
the
should just
1,000
said the telltale gaze.
Yeah. Well, we also had terms. We used the word telltale as a, like I'm getting telltaled right now. And then there's, and there was a lot of versions of it.
And apparently, as we've learned as of recent, it's not just Telltale Games. There's the games
I'm getting
it's a
industry
game
and working
industry
for
thing
it
for
is
sure.
just
Well,
sadly,
honestly, part of this,
crazy.
like talking about Graham listening to sad stuff and people working, tirelessly and iterating and caring about what you're shipping, that's just when you care about something.
I'm going to ask Graham
gotta
if he
do
was
that.
listening to like the Smiths, like
Morrissey.
The Queen
Morrissey,
is
yeah.
dead or
Totally.
something. That
I'm
album
sure.
is just oh mother.
I hadn't
Yeah.
heard
I
about
can
Graham immersing
feel-
himself
Sing
like that. It's
me
like,
to sleep.
Yeah,
Graham
he
was
goes
like
method.
He's
Yeah,
method shoring.
cinematics.
Method cinematics.
It's good.
Oh man,
I love
here's
Larry.
Larry.
Terry
What
McGovern.
What a
Yeah.
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 Another
Amazing
industry veteran.
legend
boy.
of voice acting.
And
Yeah.
he was,
He
these aren't the droids I'm looking for.
He
Yeah.
was yes,
Yeah.
he was that.
Terry, when I moved to San Francisco Bay Area
Yeah.
in like 1980, he was already a thing.
Of course. Yeah.
And yeah, radio, acting,
On camera too.
on camera.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I just saw a post from him the other day, and he seems to be doing okay.
Yeah,
Doing
I hadn't
well.
seen. Yeah, he
Yeah.
had some tough
Great guy,
stuff.
great
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. I can't believe this. I was such a huge fan of DuckTales. Why am I Launchpad?
That's funny, yep.
He was Launchpad,
Oh.
which was like my childhood.
The thing about Terry is this is another like kudos to this project is that he was a guy who had kind of done a lot of things, and he even noticed like this is different. This
Yeah,
is really
yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of game
Strikingly
dialogue
different.
work
Different.
was like, over there, you get down. It wasn't,
Right.
I will
Scenes
kill
of
you.
stuff.
yeah,
Die.
totally. This is gonna get processed. Don't worry, man. It's
Yeah.
gonna be. You're gonna sound like a ghost.
I did an episode 2 playthrough of this season. So I directed episode 2, and after it launched, I had a playthrough at my place, and a bunch of you guys were able to make it over. I think
That was amazing.
Dave was working on something else at the time, so you weren't able to make it up. But what's funny is watching, we basically were passing the controller around and giving the controller to Terry and letting him play his own death scene in episode 2
that's awesome.
was hilarious.
I bet
and
it was.
I have footage of it, but it's really dark and grainy.
Yeah.
So
That was
bums me out.
fun. That was a really fun night.
Yeah.
That was actually one of the nights where I met the
I think
bulk
I
of
think that
Telltale
was a night I
people who were.
Skyped in.
That might have,
might
yeah, I think
have,
we did
yeah.
like call you in for a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then after a while, he
Yeah.
got bored with me and just
And just close
hello,
the
you guys
computer.
there? Anybody? Anybody?
Totally. I don't think that. I think they muted
Is Dave
me.
still on?
Terry. That talking about just the sessions as well is when Nikki, who's Lily,
Yes.
Nikki Rapp, that scene where her side of the salt block scene, she, a lot of times actors they'd really be tweaked in there, and they just she just sat down and just needed to hang out a little bit.
She told me about that. She said after that scene
that was
you guys were actually
we're gonna go to lunch. Yeah, no, we were. Come on, just eat.
Yeah. A lot. Well, that's the thing with the writing on this game. It was so people were like, oh, did you ever they just give you freedom to do a take of your own? Or I'm like, the writing was nailed down in such an amazing way that it wasn't there was maybe one or two lines, but it was just little things that we tweaked. But otherwise, it
the
was...
lines that we had to tweak were usually with those scripts that came in 20 minutes
before
before
the
session.
Do you want 2 weirs in a row?
And
We're.
I get that question all the time.
Love that shot of Larry.
Well, no,
pops
not
up
that.
over the edge.
The question all the time about the scripts and how much improvising did you do, and because it sounds so natural, but the writing was just that good.
Yeah, and writing for a little kid.
Yeah.
Also, it's
hard.
It's hard.
From a guy who didn't have
differently.
kids, he did a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably why.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I remember he wrote a lot. Obviously, he was the lead writer for the season, but he would come in on every other episode too and take scenes and help out, and he was really good at sort of setting the bar. I think that then we would try to follow through with the rest of the characters. And,
Totally.
Yeah, it was just great.
Well,
On
and
another level.
Sean was, I worked with him on a lot of other games too, and he just always had a real.
How do you know that's an office?
He had a real sense of knowing what he wanted to hear, because a lot of times it was his dialogue, but he also knew the vibe he wanted out of a scene.
For sure.
I want to know why you didn't give Lee a love interest in a sex scene.
What, a sex scene?
Yeah.
A X X X X X X.
Honestly,
What
that
buttons
was
would you be
proposed
mashing?
at one point. Not by the dev team, but it was a note from outside.
Oh,
it was
that's
a studio
awesome.
note.
Well, I mean, there was tension between him and Carly, so I mean.
So was it a fan?
No, it was like a sort of studio note kind of deal. It was
I mean,
weird.
it's implied with Carly if she sticks around.
Yeah.
There's
It is,
something
yeah.
that there's tension there, you know. There's a little peck on the cheek.
Yes.
Well, clearly we need to take her out. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lee's about to get some happiness. Can't have that.
Yeah.
yeah.
Get with her and get back here as soon as you can.
And you, what's your name?
Kenny. With the Randy Tudor mustache, right?
Oh, it's
Yep.
so great.
So much there's contention among the fans over every Kenny Easter egg versus every Randy Easter egg. Which Easter egg is this mustache referring to?
Yeah.
It's almost always Randy.
And I'm Carly.
Okay, Carly, you'll shift in with Doug when he needs it. For now, get some rest. You're a good shot, and I'd like to keep it that way.
You got it, boss.
Now get him those pills.
This is a nice downbeat moment that Nick Herman worked on a bunch, who was also a director on this season in later episodes and future games with Telltale, and now I work with.
don't move it. Look out.
And started Telltale when he was like 11.
Yeah,
I know,
he was
right?
hired right out of
Yeah.
high
Still
school,
only like
basically.
26. I don't
Yep.
get it.
And but this scene was, I remember, being just really challenging because it's such a small downbeat moment between Lee and Clementine, and they're really just kind of like moving a desk out of the way and kind of doing little interactions in the scene. But all of those things feel like they mean something when you're doing it.
Yeah.
Like the performances are awesome. It's shot really well, and this ended up being one of those great moments that just sets up their relationship for the season.
Well, and that's really cool. And then talking with you and bringing up Nick and Grady and all, all these people that I mean, truly, this was kind of like fresh-faced,
Absolutely.
right? Literally, maybe
Yeah.
right out of high school. I don't know, or early college, and it's just, and look at you now. I'm just,
Yeah.
it's so cool to see everybody's journey, whether they were still with Telltale to when it was closed or where you're at now. It's
Good old Kent sitting to my right here.
yeah.
But
I'm
you know
here too,
that
and I was around.
Were you fresh out of high school?
No, I was somewhat fresh out of college.
Okay, all
I'd only
right.
had one gig before Telltale.
they only when Telltale went under, it was a shock for a lot of people. And but the good thing is there's a lot of Telltale DNA.
Absolutely.
that has spread through the
That's
industry.
It's
Thank
funny because
God.
a lot of us came from LucasArts, and that's where I met Dan and Kev. I didn't actually meet Kevin there, but I knew Dan really well. And those kind of seeds went out and started Telltale and other companies. Nihilistic was one of them. And then the same has happened with Telltale. And it's just, creative people do creative things. And,
Right.
and you're not going to keep them corralled up for long.
Well,
but I just feel like there was such a wealth of that at Telltale.
Well, there was such
so many
good
people.
chemistry between the people. I feel like, and
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to other game companies I've worked with, I just don't have that. I don't know them, so maybe that's
Right.
part of the problem. But
Yeah.
I mean, there was such
I
a
would like to.
family. Those videos that you posted after Telltale closed, I mean, literally, I watched that 1,000 times in a row, and it just brought me to tears because even though it was such a stressful environment, there
Yeah.
was so much fun and
Yeah.
laughter and family.
Look
It was
at what
family.
came out of it.
Yeah.
Look at what came out of it.
So that's a really
professor
special thing.
In so many ways, I mean,
This is your
decisions that were made,
Folks around
you
town know
could
the younger
fault
son
people
got
for
himself in
doing
life
the things
since,
that
but I'm a reporter for
caused it to go
WNYC
under.
in Atlanta.
But
I pay attention to that
they were
stuff.
trying to do amazing things,
Yeah.
and sometimes they just did. Case
Yeah.
in point.
Right. Yep.
Did you tell anyone?
Yeah,
about
even
the
even through the end of
accident?
Telltale, it always felt
This
like
place?
some place where it was just there were so many passionate people there you could just collaborate with.
Exactly.
It never felt like you're working in a vacuum. It felt like
Well,
a village together.
Yeah.
Trying
And
to
you
fix
weren't
things.
the only one putting in extra hours. too,
No,
right? Wow,
everyone,
you're still here.
Most people there believe probably way too hard in whatever we were making.
Yeah. Dennis, you posted a few pictures of
Oh, no,
the
her finger.
sunset.
Or sunrise.
or I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I'm
those
sorry,
are
not
sunrises.
the sunset,
Yeah,
the
those happened.
sunrise.
The inverse of the sunset.
Right, it's
I
when
think-
the sun
I
goes
think-
up.
I think everybody who has worked there and part of so many good projects
Don't worry
will
about
wear that as a badge of honor throughout their careers.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, and I just think that, you look at other industries too, like film industry or even, non-creative fields. It's hard to make good things.
Yeah.
Doing it the right way is doing it the hard way.
And with
Lord knows
people
I've seen
you-
enough bad movies.
Yeah, I mean,
and people you enjoy working with. I mean, I think that there are people that are able to pull stuff out, but you might have contentious, energies with the people that you're having to collaborate with. I just use a lot of big words in one sentence.
Wow.
I'm
You mean
so
like-
impressed.
oh,
mean
look
like
at your
Simon
look
and
at your little
Garfunkel?
cheat sheet.
Obviously, we're not drinking the bourbon.
I haven't used the word tacit yet, but I'm going to.
Ooh.
Wow.
Yeah, people you like working with matters a lot.
Yeah.
And is often rarer than it should
No,
be.
and I think in game development in general too, there was that feeling of a weird smaller version of a Brotherhood of War kind of thing, where
Yes,
it's like
yes.
Yeah.
or,
We're
and
in the
Sisterhood,
trenches,
where
right?
you're,
Let's make a
you're
video game.
basically like
But with no
everyone's in it
mustard
together.
gas or bullets coming.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's the weak version of it. But no, I think you're right. It's like you in the thing I posted, and there's just random videos. Like some of those are like 3 a.m. and people are playing acoustic guitar
Yeah.
and we're joking.
Yeah.
It's like you kind of have to do that, especially working on material like this where it's so serious
Yeah.
and you're listening to screams in your
Totally.
headphones all day, and then you have to find those bright
Yeah.
moments to kind of
It's not
pull
that
yourself
heavy.
out of it.
I think that even in the painful parts, there was a lot of laughing, and like we were constantly
in the
cracking
studio,
up. Yeah.
except for the
Oh my
final
God.
episode of
That
this
was
season.
rough.
That was like, and
Yeah.
I mean, that was Dark Cloud, but otherwise, we had such an amazing time in the studio. It almost felt too good. I would leave, and I would just feel so
You don't have a family?
insanely grateful
Yeah.
Yeah.
to be doing what I'm doing. It was like pinch.
Yeah,
myself.
totally.
I'm working with these
Well, and-
people that I want to just like hang out with all the time.
Yeah.
We're
To
laughing
get
our asses
such
off.
Great
But I don't know
words.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Man.
Yeah, Studio Jory was definitely a second home
man.
for
Yeah.
Yeah.
for a
God rest
good
his soul.
chunk.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you came in, and I don't think you
How did Curly
knew.
get in there?
I don't think you knew that you were dying, and you were just thumbing through the script, and then I heard you start swearing in there, like. And it was just you and I, Jory, obviously, and Jake
Yeah.
that day, and you kind of had a cold or something, and I remember
I'm just sorry for
it
being
was like
mean.
the lowest volume, other than Campman, who was really low, but it was just so. It was great, and it was like a 2 hour, like we dragged that death over 2 hours.
Oh,
but,
the final.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I got to hear that was thankfully you did record before
Yeah.
me, and it was one of the
Okay.
few
And
times
you
I actually
got
got
to
to
hear it,
hear him
Someone
in
other
my-
than me.
in my headphones. Well, you would have been
I'm
amazing
dead,
too,
I'm
but it was
dead.
very effective to hear Dave's
Oh, no, it
performance
was-
on
yeah.
that.
That
Well,
was-
I'll tell you what else. I intended to go in and be an actor and make the sounds of crying,
Right.
but I actually ended up crying.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
and-
it was serious.
Oh, yeah.
And that was kind of crazy because that surprised me. But I also said, well, okay, cheers, come on, just go with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we were all bleary-eyed on our side, just being exhausted too. And it was just one of those things where the process melted away, and you were just in there.
And you know, if it had been one session and I had to die and cry, and I don't think that would have happened. But I had lived with this character for so long.
Oh, we'd done so many sessions too.
So many sessions, and there was so much I liked about this character, who he was, and the relationship with Clementine. And one of my hooks was I'm a dad. I have a daughter.
I remember you talking about that, yeah.
And I could just relate to how I feel about her and how much I wanted to protect her all her life. Except those teenage years when she hated me. No.
Right. Those are gone.
No,
Yeah.
her teenage years weren't that bad. But
Let's see if we can do something about it.
I just related to this character, and when I got to that scene, it was just like,
yes, please.
whoa, where did these tears come from?
Yeah.
And again, that writing. Oh my god.
Yeah, damn that
it was
writing.
good.
Damn
It was
that good
it was the
writing.
same experience for me. I had this moment like, well, acting and think of something that's really depressing and sad and just bring yourself there. But no, it was so organic.
Yeah,
It was
you didn't need to think about it.
Yep.
And you were like moving us through, because normally we'll stop and do like a few takes or let's try that again. But you were moving through it.
Yeah.
In a
'Cause
very
you were-
subdued
yeah, you guys
manner.
were
You
in
wanted
it.
to just keep it going, which was.
Yeah, and Jory, I remember that. Both of them. There were times where a few other actors too. We just always were. There was no stopping and starting.
Right.
We just rolled.
Well,
the
and it
whole
wasn't
time.
even his typical great moving on.
Exactly.
It was like moving on.
Is Jory okay? He's not
Yeah, I
speaking in
know.
there. Yeah.
What's happened? Yeah, you're just like just keep going.
I remember him. He was all teary on those too.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
bad.
and it's funny. Gavin had a similar. There was I forget what the scene was, and he did such a great job. And then we were like looking at him when we push the button. You all right? And he goes, yeah, man, I'm fine. I'm just acting.
I was going to bring up Gavin too. Yeah, there's times with
Gavin.
Gavin where it's like he'd be mid cry
And you'd
and
be
then
like,
like
oh my-
cough or something and be like, oh sorry, anyways, let's try that again. You
Yeah.
guys want to get a burrito? I was like,
Yeah,
"Huh,
totally.
what?"
That's
Can you
so
wait?
Gavin.
Can you wait to order? Because I really want to. I want to
Yeah.
put in my
That
2
is-
cents.
Well,
So Gavin.
speaking to the voice performances, like obviously you guys know that the Clementine relationship is the key to all of this working.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and everyone fan wise loves it and appreciates everything, but also from the development team wise, like we would get those performances back, and that was the first thing we would start with, and it would be one of those things where in those great moments, like even like funny, like just random like little moments that you would never think, like you're just in the booth recording what maybe seems like a fun small character moment, like those WAV files would get passed around
Right.
the office. Like people would hear those, and it would the weirdest little things could inspire someone to go,
Absolutely.
You know what would be awesome? Like this read, the way they did it, like what if we changed the scene a little bit to be like this, and it would actually influence the scenes as they were taking shape, and it was so definitely great script starting with for sure, and then your guys' performance coming in always being amazing was a thing that one was just a pleasure to work with, as someone who's kind of helping on that stuff, but also awesome for the whole rest of the team at Telltale who was
that's really cool.
back there, and it was always every time a new batch of voice lines would come in, there was always like sort of a rush of excitement, and someone would go and start working on a scene and work on just a small little moment with Lee and
Totally.
Clementine talking, and it was just a little 30-second clip, and then they would just bring people around to their desks and be like, oh, check this out, isn't this cool?
That's
And-
so
No,
great.
that's awesome.
And if one gets you,
They eat you. And whatever's left comes back as one of them.
I was at a convention and somebody cosplayed Doug. He was standing in front of me
that's
for
so
forever,
cool.
and he's like, "Don't you recognize me?" I'm like, "No, sorry."
And it was Doug Tobacco.
He had a little a pen with a little
Oh,
laser
man.
pointer on it, and he's like, "I'm Doug," and I was like, "Oh."
That's
my
pretty
Oh.
great.
God.
Weird
Hang on,
piece of
security.
trivia. Obviously, it's probably mostly widely known that was our T guy at the time.
Yeah.
Doug Tobacco,
Who's a
awesome.
genius, by the way.
Yep.
If you're out
And-
there, Doug.
In episode 2, the laser pointer thing, we'd just hired some new cinematic artists to help on episode 2, and Grady Standard was His first thing was we're like, oh, learn how to use the tool and work with this laser pointer and sort of do stuff.
Yeah.
So apparently the laser pointer stuff that Doug does in episode 2 is actual Morse code for something.
Oh,
he was new and like learning the tool, so he just spent like a couple weeks just making that a real
that's
thing.
so awesome.
Yeah.
Which was pretty awesome.
And we don't know what it says, though?
I've heard different versions. It probably says, I hate working for Dennis now.
Well, there's something for a
I'm
fan
having
to,
fun right now.
There's
My
something for a
life
fan to
sucks.
obsessively dig into.
Yeah.
Read the Morse code with the laser.
Oh, there's a bit of blood on the floor there.
Well, I remember too, like the, I think it was Ryan Kaufman that quoted it, but maybe you'll know. He said, voice is the gas that Telltale runs on, because it really was, there's concept art and ideas but like for a first episode, those files came in well in advance. I actually have the visuals that I had to show you guys in the very beginning, and it's like a bunch of characters in T poses and like a barn, and there wasn't much to show you.
No, not at all.
But
that's pretty common in games.
Yeah, but then as the episodes went on, there was obviously, you guys kind of defined who you were.
Well, I remember playing the first episode when it was released, and it was like, oh shit, because obviously we don't see the animation, we don't have
totally,
Jared's awesome music, we don't have
the
sound, the ambiance, it really is. It was like watching a whole new game.
Yeah.
So easy to take myself out of critiquing my performance and just be like, wow, this is. Number one foam finger fan here. I love the game. I am a huge fan of the game.
That was so my experience too when I watching the playthrough, and you're just in it like, oh, this is a movie or a TV show, and what's going to happen next? This person gets to decide.
And remember all the nonverbal stuff. We went. Actually, Jory helped me, and we just figured out a script that we had every actor do. And it kind of was born out of Jurassic Park, is getting people to breathe normally, breathe scared, breathe in pain, and not just a couple breaths, because if something happened to you in real life and you said, oh my God, my leg, then you wouldn't just be all silent, you'd be like, ah!
Right,
oh,
yeah.
And that was a lot of and that's where I think a lot of chore artists got a hold of that stuff. And then requests started coming in. Hey, next time that Dave's up, will you get him to maybe have him say like, ah, and little half words and that kind of stuff was.
And yet, not one ow.
Not one.
Ow.
Damn it.
On her own. That takes toughness.
But you have no idea what sort of emotional damage is happening to her every second her family is gone.
Are you guys all right?
We're just fine, considering.
How about you, Duck?
We've all been through a lot.
Lee, you got a second?
Sure.
Back on Herschel's farm.
Yeah.
We didn't even try to save him. That blood is on our hands,
It happened pretty fast.
I guess. But I can't stop seeing him in my head.
We can't kill ourselves over
We
it.
killed that boy. We could have saved him together.
We did what we could. Bad things happen. We didn't make a choice that killed Sean. You think you do when you look back on it. But in a moment, when things are really out of control, you don't have any choice.
I guess.
Trying to let it go. How's he doing?
I'm not sure I got your name.
It's Lee.
Lily. My dad's Larry. I was just doing what I had to earlier.
Everyone was.
You didn't have to call me a bitch in front of my people. I don't need that shit, all right? It's hard enough to be in charge of people's lives without some dick cutting you down. And that violence before with my dad, that didn't help. I'm gonna get back to him now.
Hey. You're from here?
I work at Warner Robins, the Air Force Base.
Yeah, I know it. Pilot?
Nah, just mechanical admin stuff. I deal with a bunch of shitheads and bureaucrats all day. Sometimes a plane, if I'm lucky. You?
I work up at UGA. Was anyone here when you guys got here?
No, this place was pretty wrecked. We pulled a couple of bodies out of the office. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Did you know anybody here?
Yeah, the owners, we were close.
I'm sorry. We found an older couple in the office. Dad hauled them out in case they weren't really dead.
What's wrong with him?
He's got a heart condition. He takes nitroglycerin tablets pretty regularly. I've seen a few bad attacks that he couldn't get over and needed to go to the hospital.
Yeah, that's not really an option right now.
I'm just trying to keep him relaxed.
He's got a temper.
Ah, fuck you.
Yeah, he doesn't mean it.
It's just that
Yeah?
we've got kids here. Families.
He and I are a family.
I'm just saying some people can't handle a temper like that. Hell, barely seems like you can.
It's just his way. Don't make him the reason everything's screwed. Where's her mom?
Savannah, I think.
Oh, you guys aren't together.
Oh, no, I'm not her dad. I found her in a house when getting out of Atlanta. She'd been surviving by herself. I think the girl's parents didn't make it.
Oh.
I heard an answering message. They were in Savannah. She was home with a sitter. It wasn't good.
Well, she's lucky to have you.
What do you think about all this?
What is there to think? The dead are up, walking around, eating people, and turning them into more of them. I mean, Jesus.
We need to stick together and get through this.
I'm gonna get back to him now.
We just need to get back to Fort Lauderdale.
We'll do our damnedest.
This battery should fit the radio.
Great, thanks.
I found this remote in the office, but I'm pretty sure the batteries won't fit.
It needs the big stumpy ones.
Yeah, these are no good.
Hey there, this is Glenn, and I'm kinda in a jam here. Little girl, if you're there, can you put your daddy on the phone? Or on the talkie or whatever?
This is Lee. What's up?
So, I'm down at that motor inn, and, well, I'm stuck.
Stuck?
Yeah, I saw a chance to get some supplies for the group, and a bunch of the Roman ones got the jump on me. I'm hiding over here, but they won't leave.
What's up? Glenn's trapped down at the motor inn. Hey, Glenn, we're gonna talk it over and send a group to come get you, all right?
Awesome. I'll sit tight till then.
Sounds good. I'm gonna hold on to this until we get Glenn back, okay? I'll take good care of it.
What do you think?
I think Doug's not great around zombies. You got your family here. I'll take Carly and her dead eye down to the motor inn, get Glenn, and get back here as fast as I can.
If that's what you want to do.
Somebody's got to.
Yeah, I'm in.
Good. Doesn't sound too bad there right now.
Let me know as soon as you want to head out. I could use a jog.
Try to get some rest, hon.
How can I with those things out there?
So this definitely was Telltale transitioning from making adventure games into this kind of like what is a playable TV show kind of feel. Episode 1 has the most puzzly stuff in it.
Yeah.
And then episode 2 has like one more puzzly moment, and then episode 3, maybe a little one with the train, and then we slowly started kind of getting away from the things that slow the pacing of the story down and make you try to keep you in that headspace of the characters and the relationships the whole time.
Classic spot.
The motor
the
and
motel.
The
sign.
Travelier
Man.
Hotel Motel.
that guy's just hanging out up there.
Yeah, hello.
That guy's got like a school jersey on, but he looks like he's 80.
I know, he's been decomposing for what?
Didn't the apocalypse start like yesterday?
I know, it's like 5 days ago and everybody's already falling apart.
Every time I see RVs, I think of Breaking Bad and this game.
Yeah, totally.
I think this...
We've got RVs locked down.
Yeah, definitely.
Motel was... the motor inn was based on... I think I just read this somewhere. I can't remember if Jake was just talking about it, but based on a motel that was like 5 minutes down away from Telltale, just off the highway.
So fun. I think I remember hearing
Is
that
it still
too.
there?
It's still there.
Julian, I think you were telling me that the Clem's house is based off Jake's house.
It's Jake's childhood home.
Jake's childhood
that they still live
I
in.
did not know.
Yeah, his parents still live in the tree. I don't know if the tree house is there too, but that would be awesome.
Sean told me that Lee Everett is based off a professor he had in college.
Lucky you.
I think I
Well,
remember that too.
here's another little random tidbit I learned from Sean at PAX West last year. The Brooklyn sweatshirt
Oh, yeah.
was their obsession with the movie Kangaroo Jack,
Oh,
which I
that's-
can't believe I never
really
picked
funny,
it up
yeah.
because I've weirdly seen that movie like 5 or 6 times
That's
because I
really
think it's
cool.
hilarious. But it's Kangaroo Jack. So when he showed me the picture of the kangaroo with the Brooklyn sweatshirt, my mind literally
that's cool.
exploded out of my skull.
And I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize too. In development, there's a lot of choices that you make, like all day. You're just making choices, right? And some of them are just like concepting. Like sometimes it's a quick part of the process when you're like out of time and you just make. There's like a funny call like that, someone's like, oh, it should be the kangaroo sweatshirt, Kangaroo Jack sweatshirt. And it's like, it's a thing that it's kind of funny, it gets a laugh at the time.
Right.
And then it becomes a thing that's in the whole season and you have to look
totally.
at it. Like
Yeah.
Clem's rainbow jacket in season 2 was like
I
a
love
thing
that
that was
puppy.
like, I think Ainsworth.
I
And
want
then
that
it becomes
puppy.
legendary.
Yes.
Yeah, I noticed that back at Herschel's, maybe it was Herschel's, where the camera stopped on the address 5240. Was that something? I was going to ask you then. It was just a number.
Yeah, I don't
it's
remember.
not like 1138.
Oh, not that I know of.
Didn't Nick Mastriani do this scene?
I can't remember.
I thought I remember that was the case.
This one definitely I know went through some iterations because it was a really puzzly moment.
I always look back on the scene as being like one of the most complicated things we've like ever
It
done.
was
and I kind
really
of still to this
complicated,
day
yeah.
can't believe
Yeah.
that it's so crazy.
Yeah.
This is actually something design-wise I always felt like I was chasing in future Telltale games. It's like I want to make something as cool as
Sure.
the motor, and it was always hard. All right, now I have the pillow. I actually forget how to finish this scene. Now that I have the pillow, I know I can kill a zombie silently somewhere, but I don't remember which zombie it is. We never made something with so many stations. Like the stations are kind of technically complicated to set up, and so we never made something with quite as much like stealthing around as this.
Right.
I think I can kill some zombie silently now. Is it that guy over there? Is it this fella? Yeah.
That one, maybe.
There we go.
We'll find out.
Yeah, these puzzles are complicated enough that I can't even necessarily memory my way back through all of them. Only dreams now.
Boom.
Thanks, Carly.
I'm sure that silenced it.
Well, and this
Yeah, right. I didn't hear it.
It's sort of a little bit of a legacy adventure game moment where it's like use pillow on zombie equals
Right,
Carly
right.
coming over and shooting. Well, the team at large, but engineering team also did a great job with this game trying to figure out all the weird ways we could take this tool that was built for making adventure games, this one thing, and then
do this.
And a lot of these little moments which you would think, I mean, if you're in Unity or Unreal, this is like a quick thing to set up. But
effortless in
in
comparison.
Telltale Tool it would be like, just because it was made for a different purpose originally, it was all stuff that was being kind of like retrofitted and invented to make these moments possible as we kind of went along.
Right.
And I know I
You
need
have to,
the
push the car at some point.
I know I need the bolts to break that window without
The
making
spark
any
plug.
noise.
The spark plug.
Which I weirdly learned is a real thing.
Yeah,
Apparently you
I
can
remember
hit a window
finding
with
out that
spark
that was
I've
a
never
real
tried
thing.
it.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to try it.
But I don't know. People figured it out.
Yeah.
And, felt like a little win. So
Oh, if I were to play
Here's the
this
spark
and
plugs
control it, it would take 14 hours to get there. In fact, when I
Yeah.
first played it, I couldn't get out of the fight. Yeah.
I'm not hearing the audio right now, so I'm trying to muscle memory my way. Like, wait, how did these puzzles?
Yeah,
go?
totally.
So doing my best.
Well, and that's, again, one of the evolutions coming from adventure games. A lot of times they try to make adventure game puzzles are sort of a more open-ended, where you can kind of come back to the same place over and over again. And with Telltale, as we progressed forward from this episode, the idea was always to try and keep the story moving forward at every point. And so we ended up losing a lot of those moments where you have to go back to places.
Is that hatchet going to get used?
It might come back later on.
I will admit, I remember when I first came to Telltale, I finally sat down to try to play Sam & Max Season 3. And they just
really
gave me
hard.
so many options of where to go at the beginning. I was like, what the hell does the game want me to do?
Yeah.
And I would go to every subsequent location
Yep.
and exhaust everything I thought I could do there, and then be like, I have no idea what to do now.
Yeah, no, those games are tough.
Yeah.
Fun, but tough.
I liked the hint system in Back to the Future that just told me exactly what to do.
Yeah.
Glenn is voiced by Nick Herman, right?
Oh, yeah, good point.
Yeah.
There you go.
God, that's
Yeah,
right.
I know. It was awesome.
Forgot
Yeah.
about
I've
that.
listened to a bunch of voice lines recently for this definitive edition and realizing, like, oh shit, I totally forgot that was Nick. And he delivers pizza.
Oh, yeah.
That's what he does.
And sympathy.
Delivers pizza and sympathy.
And I'm wondering if Glenn, I mean, this is the melding of universes, but after he leaves them, is that when he goes to
Yeah.
Atlanta and meets up with?
Yep.
Obviously, I guess.
Yeah, no, we definitely
Yeah.
started with more tie-ins.
Didn't work out too well for him.
Yeah.
Well, he lasted a good amount of time
Yeah.
for a Walking Dead
Well, he did.
character.
Yeah, he had a Kenny-like revival.
So episode 2, let's see, there was one of the big moments was people sort of realizing Clementine was paying attention to how they were acting. That was one of the big sort of focal points of episode 2 was the moment with Danny St. John where you can kill him.
There we go. Get that.
Get that
X.
iconic X. And if you
shit.
choose to do it looking over and seeing Clementine looking at you in horror, and that was a big moment for
Yeah.
players realizing
Yeah.
like, oh, she's watching and processing this.
I remember
and
that. That
going
was
forward.
my scene in that episode.
Yeah, I was gonna say you were working on that one for a while.
Yeah,
right?
that was my first ever Walking Dead scene. Was the inside of the barn escape.
barn.
Oh,
Yeah.
Right behind you.
Yeah. So episode 2, one of the sort of original passes on it. So Chuck Jordan, who worked a lot sort of structurally on helping set things up for success, had written a version of episode 2 a while, like way long before episode 1 was
interesting.
even half done. Is at the time there was this notion that all episodes were going to be written kind of a little more concurrently, and then we could get everything done in a quicker time. But
Sure.
as happens,
well.
things
What could
pushed.
go wrong?
And then as we were developing episode 1, and you find those moments, it's like, oh, people really do care about the characters and the callbacks, and here's how interactive narrative is working in a different way in the Telltale games than even we thought when we were just starting out. And so episode 2 had to go through an extensive sort of rewrite process at the very last minute. I'm sure that was when you guys were getting scripts, the day of your recordings, unfortunately.
That's not what I remember.
But yeah, it was interesting looking back at the episode 2 script and thinking, like, oh, this totally makes sense. Like, it's written fantastically for where the episode 1 was like 6 months ago.
That's
just
right.
because we were just kind of finding new things out as we went.
Well, and how much do, as someone who plays the games, the choices of people playing it, like how much
definitely.
does that, I mean, obviously it is a huge effect to the, so, but that must be add to the pressure of like, oh God, we thought that people would actually like this character, and in fact, 90% of them chose to whatever.
That's exactly.
Oh, yeah, the data.
Segue into
The data.
Yeah, it's huge in Duck, who we mentioned earlier as being the sort of like
R.I.P.
more stereotypical annoying kid character
Right.
in a game, and there was the built to the moment of the Kenny having to choose to shoot him in the the woods in episode 3, and that whole moment wouldn't work if you didn't feel some sympathy for Duck.
Yeah.
And when episode 1 and 2 came out, we realized like a lot of the player feedback was like, oh, this kid's annoying. Can't I just get a gun and shoot him?
Oh, that's so funny.
And I remember like Sean and Jake going, oh crap, in order this thing we're setting up in episode 3
not gonna
to work
work.
is not going to work
Yeah.
unless people care about him. So I think in like it was a matter of days. They created
that's so great.
the little motor-in puzzle with Detective Duck.
Yes.
And that whole thing was purely added at the
That's
very last
so
minute
awesome.
just to make sure people cared enough about him when the murder scene came up later. Murder.
Yeah,
That's not me. I play somebody who gets taken down by zombies, and I am only remembering this because I did the
hotel girl
scream, and literally, thankfully, I was going on vacation because I was like 2 octaves lower.
Yeah.
It basically was a voiceover, live and learn. I'll never do that
Right.
again. I was like,
Was
it'll
that the
be so
episode
much
3
fun.
Screaming Girl?
Maybe.
It
Oh,
might-
maybe it
it-
is.
Which
Yeah,
was then
because I don't
voiced by a
remember.
artist.
I don't remember having
Yeah, it
all
was.
those lines. Yeah, I don't.
I thought I remembered something making we added the scene to make Duck likable. I thought I remember in episode 4
Make Duck likable.
we made we added scenes to
Make
make
Duck
Ben
great again.
less likable.
Make
Wasn't the
Duck
stuff where he like
great
fucked up
again.
and like didn't protect Clementine in the first scene like added pretty late?
Probably.
I think I only remember because that was my scene, and later they updated it so that Ben like abandons Clementine when she's surrounded by zombies. Because there were none that people were going to drop Ben off the bell tower.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. Yeah, people.
Because
Yeah,
Clementine liked
that's right.
Ben, that almost overrided any other feelings they had toward
Yeah.
Ben.
Right.
Despite him being like a huge cause of most of the world's of the
Glenn is
problems they
fine.
encounter in the story.
Well, yeah, we're okay.
I've got a few cans of gas for your pickup in the trunk of my car.
Good to hear it.
And things back here?
Quiet. Our friend is still in and out over there. He won't survive any more stress.
The next order of business is getting those pills out of the pharmacy. I don't remember them very well.
Speaking of people that went on to do other things as well, definitely worth mentioning. Gary Whitta was involved with season
Yeah.
1 and
Gary
Roger
Whitta.
was on episode 4.
Right.
He's done pretty good for himself.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, I
Book of
remember.
Eli.
Yes,
Yeah,
he
there you
wrote the Book of Eli, which is an amazing movie.
Amazing movie.
Plus, he's like the Star Wars guy.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
On Rogue One.
Rogue One. Thank
Yeah.
you. I'm like, duh.
But I remember him being in some of the writers' rooms for the season early on when we were kind of trying to break stuff. And I remember one of his. I feel like a big contribution of his was he always pushed things to go darker. Like I feel like people were sort of stepping their toes and like, oh, maybe like his finger gets hurt. And he was just like, what? What if they
ripped his arm
the
off?
baby comes back to life as a zombie and like eats someone?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good point.
He also
Yeah.
was really tapped into what people were saying in forums and things, and he would like. I remember he was in on some sessions once, and he was talking about people that were complaining, and he said, there are people that walk 12 miles for fresh water, for God's sake, and he's like, in his accent,
That's awesome.
he
Chicago.
yeah, he yeah,
Right. He's a British Chicago.
Yeah.
He loves it when I do an impersonation of him. By
And
the
we
way.
all sound like
Gary Whitta.
yeah, we all sound like Dick Van
Mary
Dyke, you know.
Poppins.
No, not that bad. We don't sound that bad.
I do.
I remember being in session with him, and that was when the language was always the saltiest.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Oh, yeah,
And the
he-
things were. I said, does your mother know you writing stuff like this?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a big believer in just get down and dirty in the scene and make it real. And
Yeah.
it
Yes.
showed. It helped a lot.
Indeed. He did some work on season 4, didn't he?
He was in incredibly early writers' rooms.
Yeah. Okay.
So it didn't end up
Incredibly.
Yeah. Well,
Incredibly
season 4 had
early.
kind of a wacky thing where there was
Yeah.
a whole version of it before I even got on. So
Wow.
I've never seen any Gary Whitta versions of season 4.
Well, I'll have to ask him about it one day.
Ooh, zombies
Was
like
there
television.
was there any
I finally figured
modeling
out this
like
puzzle.
like just for fun Easter egg stuff of zombies after people? I remember there was a couple
Well,
that
episode 5 has those contest winners, right?
Yeah.
There are
Oh, that's
contest
awesome.
winner
One.
zombies in the final Isn't there more than one?
Is there more than one?
I thought there were like
Oh,
three.
that's
The guy who
right,
gets his
there
head,
was a
the guy who gets his head cut in
contest.
half is a
That's right.
contest winner.
I
That's
forgot
awesome.
It's actually
about
notably the zombies that look way better than the
That
other zombies.
doesn't
Yeah.
seem to be a great prize to get.
that. I'm sure
Mom.
they were
You in a video
psyched.
game.
And
I got
the-
a job.
The character of Bree in the 4th episode was the big contest winner, if I
Oh,
recall correctly. She was
interesting.
completely based off a fan.
Wow.
She gets a horrible death
Yep.
with intestines coming all out.
Yeah, Bree was.
Yeah.
Which you imagine a Walking Dead fan is probably extremely happy
No,
about.
that's
Oh,
awesome.
that's
great.
exactly
Yeah.
what they
That's
want.
great, yeah.
That's
I
exactly what they
appreciate it.
Hey there. Story of the century here, huh?
Yeah, and I've got shit for recording equipment. And from the looks of it, there isn't going to be any shortage of first-hand accounts.
You do radio.
That's right. Well, until some piece of shit politicians yank our funding, and I hit the blogosphere.
You seem to handle yourself pretty well.
Really? I'm a disaster.
I can't tell.
My news editor was eaten about 5 feet away from me, and I would have joined her if it wasn't for that dorky guy on watch over there.
I'm sorry.
She was an asshole, but, you know.
Yeah. That guy saved you?
Yeah, can you believe it? Those creeps, or ghouls, or whatever the hell they are. They were pulling our van apart, and that guy, Doug, just came to the rescue.
You can never tell who the heroic ones are gonna be, I suppose.
He's kind of cute. In that parents' basement sort of way.
Huh?
Huh? Oh, nothing.
How'd you end up here?
We drove up to cover the Cherry Blossom Festival. Real hard-hitting stuff.
Sounds worth it. I'm still looking for batteries for that thing.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
I better get back to it.
Yep.
Thanks, by the way.
Don't mention it. Just remember what I said.
Yeah, I will. And here's another one.
Should be able to get it to work now.
It's still not working?
Yeah, I can't figure it out.
Let me have a look at that thing.
Go ahead.
Nothing.
As the unknown
You fixed it.
continues to spread unchecked, the estimated death toll continues to skyrocket. WABE urges you to stay indoors and avoid any contact with individuals you suspect may have been exposed.
The station is okay.
In the event of a full... my producer's telling me we have to get off the air.
Steve.
WABE wishes you and your loved one... God bless you all.
Good. Want to go have a look around outside?
Let's have a look around.
Okay.
That place is full of TVs and electronics. Think you can do anything with this?
You know what I could do?
What's that?
It's universal. I could program it to work with those TVs across the street. Let's just hope the power is still on.
You can just do that?
Well, I memorized all the codes when I was in AV. Let's try.
Well fucking done, Doug. All that dork nonsense might save a life.
Who's to say it already hasn't? That got a few few of them to take notice.
But not enough. It's doing what looks do.
Hey man, what are you doing? We can't even think about going out there unless the keys are out there for sure.
That guy over there has the keys.
How can you be sure?
I found this in the office. That boy in the photo worked here. The keys being on him is as good a bet as we can make.
Yeah, I agree. Just need to figure out how to get out there and get them. You wouldn't need long, right?
Nah, just a few seconds.
Maybe there's a way to distract them and buy you some time. Awesome. Now to distract those things. Carefully.
Now's the time.
Be careful.
Keep an eye out, will you?
Yeah.
It's a sad moment.
This is a different Telltale
We
property.
have
One
a
of the
few
writers.
lines get killed and come back as a zombie and chomp on somebody.
Yeah, that's a cool thing.
And that's his brother. Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Lee's poor brother.
Why?
I
I've
remember
never put
this.
that together.
I remember this.
Yeah, this was all these. We had some rough.
Yeah, it's
rough,
dark.
rough concepts.
Mm-hmm.
This episode has like a suicide, and it
Yeah.
has murdering
What
your
the
own
hell?
brother as a zombie, and it has
Yep.
people's children dying. It's a lot.
See you later, little
Chuck,
buddy.
Chuck the hobo, who was one of my favorite characters. Brief that he be.
Chuck the
voiced
hobo.
by
I love Chuck
Roger
the hobo.
Jackson. Yeah, I liked. He was like a wise elder that pops in for the train and.
I distinctly
And then
remember.
dies.
I distinctly remember he used to live a little longer into episode 4, and I remember reading a bit that like you need to get coins out of the binocular thing. You need to like so that you could. Oh, no, you need to get coins out of a newspaper machine so you could look through the binoculars of the boats out in the water. And Lee
yeah.
couldn't figure out how to get it out, and then
Nice.
Chuck would just walk
The
up and
money
smack
shot.
it, and all the money would just fall out. And he would just look at Lee, and Lee would be speechless, and he would say, "Old hobo trick."
I just
Good.
love that he's a hobo.
Oh man.
And Roger Jackson.
I shored Chuck's final stand where he saves Clementine with that shovel.
Oh
Nice.
I remember distinctly I reused the animation of Danny St. John getting killed with the pitchfork.
Good.
He just used the shovel instead of a pitchfork. A lot of clever
So
animation
zombie
reuse
party.
we had to do.
Yeah,
Yep.
look at that. Wow.
Zombies are watching
Oh, their show's over, I
Game of
guess.
Thrones.
Yeah.
No
It's the HBO
spoilers.
logo.
I'm not caught up.
Oh, really?
I've
Let's
been
not
off.
spoil
I've been
Game of
off the
Thrones in The Walking Dead commentary.
interwebs for the last like 3 weeks, so I've done good so far.
Oh no, we're dating the commentary.
God, there was a version where the Doug and Carly choice got swapped up to the beginning of the episode, so
Whoa.
the game opened with that.
Man, that was close. But we did it. It's all that matters. I've got the keys.
Great. God, you're amazing. Let's get in there. Oh no. Shit. We gotta hurry.
So many walkers. There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of walkers throughout the
Where's
seasons.
my screwdriver?
but- in my shoulder. But I feel like season 1 was definitely. I mean, because this was like the obviously fresh new outbreak, but
Mhm.
it's really cool to see all these awesome zombies.
Yeah.
I like that a lot of the season 1 walkers seem to kind of tell like a story. Like you can kind of like tell like this walker's been through some stuff.
Right.
Like, every walker is like
Yeah.
every walker like was clearly a person and they were going through something.
Right.
That one's walking with a bit more sadness.
Yeah.
Every walker was once a dad. A mom.
Definitely mentioning Sean Ainsworth, who worked a bunch on these games and was directing 400 Days and was around at Telltale for a while after this. But he made this really cool sort of single camera energy to this scene that I think there was a feeling of maybe we need a big choice up front that just shows people who are new to just Telltale games in general, like, hey, your choices are going to matter.
Right.
But the problem ended up being that you didn't know either of the characters. It was just
Right.
a random, like, okay, am I choosing the guy because he has a funny t-shirt or
Right.
the woman because she has a gun, and it didn't mean as much. So, but yeah, there was a time where that got swapped into the beginning, and the game just opened with that, and it felt
That's
a bit out of
crazy.
place.
Whoa, that was crazy.
The blend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
Just
crazy
blend
blend.
into an idol.
Good tricks in this episode. Shut up, Doug.
What's on Doug's shirt?
That is a barrel
Okay.
I was gonna say
I
Barrett.
I don't know how I just noticed that. but-
So Graham Manable, who used to work at Telltale for a bit as an artist, and then has gone to work on Leica and Pixar and all sorts of things,
Cool.
and made Grickle and did Puzzle Agent stuff.
Oh, yeah.
He's the
Yeah.
draws all that. He had done this barrel oak character, and it had been put on a shirt, and Doug Tobacco, the actual Doug Tobacco,
Yeah, the
liked
real.
it, and so it just ended up being like, I mean, he would literally wear the sandals like this.
Oh,
this is
totally.
Probably
Yeah.
taken from a photo and just modeled from real
Absolutely.
life. So.
Barely a character design.
I want a barrel oak shirt.
I have one. We made them. Yeah.
Oh man, it's really cool.
I sadly wore it all the time at first, and then now it's all just.
He's also voiced by
I
Jared.
know. Now
right?
you want to. Huh?
Oh yeah,
Voiced by
Jared.
Jared.
That's right.
Jared,
Did
yeah.
Jared
The
do
music.
Doug?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
I
I see. I can't hear it right now because we're all yabbering away. But that's hilarious. How am I forgetting all this? I told you, 7 years. Brain.
Yeah, these were the
Brain.
days when we like
I'm
we need
what?
a guy to do this, and we
Yeah,
would just
yeah,
do it.
yeah. Well, and Jared is also an amazing, actor. So works out. And musician. He does, like you just said, all the music. And still does.
I have to
Did.
save Doug
Still
just
does.
because I know
Did.
it's the contrary
Yes.
choice.
No, so that was the thing is like Doug was a friend of ours at
Yeah.
Telltale, and Sean and Jake knew him really well. And
Yeah.
we like worked on
Damn.
the Idle Thumbs website with them for years, and so they thought we all internally thought 99% of people were going to save Doug just because we know him and he's just a good guy.
Right.
And we're like, oh,
right.
no one really knows Carly, and basically most people saved Carly, which was kind of a saddening fact afterwards. And we're like, sorry, Doug. No one
Sorry,
likes
man.
you."
Yeah.
No one would save you. It was like.
That's why on that picture he just posted recently, he put #Save Doug. I
Yeah.
was like, why did he do that?
Movement.
Because I
Yeah.
can't remember anything. He's Doug. That's right.
Yeah. Nope. Turned out that she had a gun, and we thought because he was like the techie sort of guy that seemed like he could be useful in the future for doing things.
Right.
But it was really just she had a gun,
Right.
and
Yeah,
people
the
just
gun
said, like,
wins.
that wins. In the
The
Right.
immediacy of the
apocalypse.
gun is hard to beat.
Yeah.
We had this whole puzzle in episode 2 designed where he'd set up like a warning system with tin cans around the motor and perimeter.
Oh, that's
and,
yeah.
Yeah, and then it turned out no one saved him, and we're like,
Well,
oh, I guess we put less effort.
In the
Which
world of The
bummer.
Walking Dead, don't get too, attached to
Yeah.
anyone.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
There you go, yeah.
It might be useful. Oh, dead.
Doesn't he do something techie
Your
in episode
favorite
3?
character can go at any time.
I think so. Yeah, we.
Believe me, as Lee Everett.
I know.
I know.
I know. And it was
I
funny because I
approve
think
of
everyone had
this
that in the
comment.
back of their mind, coming in like, "Do I die today?"
Oh, yeah.
No.
Fair.
I got to live with that for like 3 more seasons
you
after this.
conditionally died today.
Are you guys going to kill her? No. Trevalier.
Well, I think the
Nice.
conditional death thing too was a big hurdle for the development side, because we had all these people that were conditionally there or not there,
Yeah.
and the complexity of that as time goes by was like just horrendous.
Yeah.
It just makes every piece of work that involves the conditional characters exponentially more expensive and
Unbelievable, yeah.
complicated to
Yeah.
make.
Glenn's like, I'm out. I'm out.
It's like I've had my cameo time in this game. Time to go. I have to go back to my,
So long,
my
Nick
award-winning
Herman.
comic series.
I'm going
we
to
just said that at
Atlanta.
the same time. Yeah, it should be safer there. Less people.
Yeah.
That's like the last place on the face of the planet. I'm like, I already have my escape route. It's to like the Sierras.
Oh,
or-
totally, yeah.
I don't know, somewhere.
Yeah,
It's
Catalina.
the hell
Out to the
of
wilderness.
town, Yeah.
Fear the Walking Dead. They finally they had that dude on the yacht. And then,
Oh
and then-
yeah,
and then-
yeah. I'm forgetting his name. I actually really like Fear the Walking Dead.
Yeah.
That would be the way to go. Of course, you're fishing and you catch a zombie fish.
Well, of course, it doesn't last.
Would you call them walkers or
Spoiler,
swimmers?
it doesn't last.
Floaters.
Floaters.
We actually did some floating zombies in Michonne. I don't think we really used as much, but we had finally did the floating zombie concept.
Nice.
Just because Michonne had so much water in it.
I also feel like we haven't mentioned, we've been talking mostly about dev stuff and things in the episode itself, but shout out to obviously Dan and Kevin for starting the company in the early days and sort of shepherding this thing through from early adventure games to this kind of, interactive narrative and sort of building a bunch of games after that.
And giving a jolt to the industry,
Exactly.
honestly.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have to say, when a billion years ago, when I booked Sam and Max, I remember I would see auditions come in, and at that time, it read like an animated series. So as an actor, you're like, oh shit, I need to get in on this.
Yeah,
like, how do I? Took me a couple
They're
tries.
onto something.
But when I booked, Sam and Max, and learned more about what Dan and Kevin had started, and just learned about Telltale Games. It was such a gift as an actor to get to work on something like that, especially as getting my start in the Bay Area. It's not LA. We don't get a lot of animation up there. So this was just like the really cool dialogue driven work that every voice actor wants to be doing.
Yeah, I remember being at events or PAX or something and meeting other voice actors who you guys had known and who they'd talked to and been like, hey, is there any way, like, who do I send auditions to? Like, I'd really love to get in a Telltale game, because they knew it was about the performance and that we celebrate their voices so much and build everything around those voices. I imagine being an actor is just like, oh, that sounds like a great, I want to be a part of it.
Right.
Like,
So, well, it's ahead, and what Dan and Kevin started was like we've said before, literally changed. Game changer.
Bones,
History.
the great cow race. See, you don't even know. That was
Wait,
the
hold
first.
on.
That was the first game.
Was that the first? I thought you were using some expression.
No.
I'm like, I'm just gonna
Actually,
sit
it
here
was.
and-
It was the poker game that was their first.
Poker.
But then Bone was the first. First interactive.
And then there was a Strong Bad at one point, which
Yeah,
is,
that was the only one that. So the Strong Bad guys produced all that dialogue, and Telltale made the game. It was fun though. That was a fun.
well, the clips, the
Yeah.
the ads for it, whatever you want to say,
Yeah,
that are hilarious.
That was the first. That was the first game I worked on at Telltale, and there was a weird.
The Strong Bad game?
The Strong Bad. Yeah.
That's so
Homestar
funny.
Runner. And I remember that was like the first weird shift for the cinematic department. Before it was kind of looked at as more of like, oh, these are the people who just need to implement the puzzles.
Yeah.
And I remember Mark Darren actually on I think it was episode 4. Like the idea was you were making a fake movie, and he basically just said like, I don't care, just go nuts, like go. And we went. The
that's
small
awesome.
cinematic team at the time just went nuts, and we're making huge fake movies out of everything. And I
That's
was like,
fun.
oh, you can do stuff in the tool. And,
Yeah.
so that was a fun.
And
fun
that's
memory.
where all that stuff built on. You built future things off of those things,
Where's the tool now?
It's on a computer somewhere, hopefully.
Golden shiny computer.
Somewhere out
Locked
there.
in the. You have to like put a
Nobody has
sandbag.
access to the tool.
Nope.
No one's publicly said it.
It's
Yeah, I'm sure.
publicly.
I'm sure there's an owner out there somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole process is mysterious and. Yeah,
I
who happens all
remember
that
at some
stuff?
point I was talking to Kevin early on, and he was talking about making a version for sale.
Oh yeah.
I don't think that ever happened, but
No, that had kind of gone back and forth for years. There was the argument was it's the sort of Telltale special sauce, and it was really powerful for making games like this. Like, there's no other tool out there that you could make a 2-hour performance-based game in 6 weeks.
Yeah, the cinematic stuff is incredible.
Yeah.
Especially near the end, even too. It kept getting iterated on and improved and improved.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I remember at LucasArts too when Mike Land and Pete and Clint Pajakian they came up with iMuse for interactive music, and it's still cool.
like a game changer.
It was a game changer, and they wanted to make it a product as well. And forget who the president was at the time, but then all of a sudden it's like, okay, so now you're doing like QA for a tool and product support and it is a secret sauce. So you know, you have to really be a tools developer or a creative developer.
Well, and to wrap it up back to episode 1 here, at the end of this, when episode 1 came out, there was no sort of speculation of how we thought it was going to do. Like, everyone was just like, all right, we put everything into it. Who knows? Maybe people will like it, or maybe they'll think it's boring and they want to just shoot more.
Right.
And so it was, when we started on episode 2, we still didn't really know that. And while we were making episode 2 is, like, episode 1 came out, and that's when we started seeing fan reactions of people getting really attached to the characters. And it helped us sort of lean in. Yes. Well done on next time.
All right.
Next time on The Walking Dead.
Well,
that
that must have been so incredibly rewarding to, like, I mean, as it went, each episode, I mean, on our end, too, we were like, oh, wow, this is really
what's gonna
picking
happen
up
next?
speed.
Yeah.
So you guys must have just
People
been
are talking
psyched.
about this.
It felt like a risky thing to release. I remember like we released like the first like 10 minutes of the game or like the babysitter sequence or something, and comments on any video of it were just like, "What is this bullshit non-game? Like, why is this not a game? This is just a movie."
In
Like
your
like
face.
initial fan reaction to anyone who's like a video gamer was like totally negative.
Right. Well,
So it really wasn't
But
until
see,
it came out
it's-
and people dug into it that they understood what it was and guys started to like it.
But this is a game that if they got into the story, they'd love it.
Yeah.
But you didn't have to be a very
Exactly.
proficient gamer controller to
And-
enjoy this
and
game.
You didn't
That's
even
what
have to.
turns me
You didn't
off
even
of
have to
games
play
now. I
it.
No.
You could watch someone play it, and it was also awesome.
Yes.
No, make that choice.
No, I've met
Yeah.
so many people who are like, well, I don't play games,
I
but
just
me
watch
and my
people
husband
play.
or my daughter or
Yeah.
whoever
Yeah.
controls it, and I basically just, and then we get in arguments, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't
Why
exactly
did you
remember
do
what the
that?
contemporaries are, but it felt like the early days of like interactive narrative being a big thing in like mainstream video games.
Yeah. No,
I feel like there was a lot else quite like it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
now
It was
I
before
just
the current era of the walking simulator,
Yes.
which has kind of like
True.
moved into the next level of that.
Yep. That's true.
I just want to keep going down the line.
Oh yeah, the whole sort of showing stats at the end definitely
I heard that was really
born
late.
out of playtesting and
It was the coolest thing.
Yeah.
it was crazy seeing it because a lot of those choices weren't created with the intention of people arguing over which choice they made at the end, and that's sort of the thing we learned is you have a good choice when you get two people in the office and one of them is going, this choice sucks, we need to cut it because everyone will do this, and then the other person is saying, what? No one's going to do that.
Right.
And then you're like, okay, this is a good choice. Like,
Yeah,
so
totally.
we're always shooting for the 50-50 when possible. But as you see, Doug
23.
Carley, 23%
Yeah,
Doug.
pretty close except on poor
That's
Doug.
crazy.
Yeah, sad.
Poor
When we in
Doug.
episode 2, we definitely made a lot more stuff for Doug originally, and then I think,
Yeah, because like,
Yeah.
how much
They were
budget
like,
can we
meh.
justify putting
Yeah,
into Doug at
exactly.
this point?
yeah. But Carly had some great moments too, so it's like,
Yeah.
Carly's also really good.
yeah. So.
I actually forgot about her character. I was digging into the lines, and I forgot she has lines about like maybe some politician's going to buy her paper and make her have to reside in the blogosphere and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
I
There's like a
remember
bunch of like character stuff about her being like a journalist that I totally
Totally.
forgot about until I started digging into the stuff for
funny.
the definitive edition, and she's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's fun. She feels like she's a tired reporter lady.
Yeah, exactly. No,
Yeah.
she's great, and I feel like we didn't talk about her much because we know Doug because he's in the office.
Yeah,
but she
there's
also has
a lot
great
of
stuff in
lore
the season.
associated with Doug.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nick Vigil, who voiced
I haven't
Carly.
Yeah,
looked,
yeah.
I
that's
haven't
right.
I haven't
Yeah. She's great.
done a looked at this game in a while now. I mean,
really?
we're going. What is it? 2019. This was 2013.
Yeah.
Man.
12. I
That's
think.
crazy.
2012.
12,
The
yeah.
first
12.
episode came out at least.
Yeah.
Man, oh man.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think we've done I feel like we played the final episode together at one point somewhere down the line in
Yeah.
the last year or so. But yeah, going back to
I
this
haven't
first
looked at
episode.
this first episode in a long time.
Yeah, me neither. It's
Logan.
crazy to see. Well, and
And
here's
it-
all the awesome people that made this possible. So
Yes.
Bravo.
Yay.
Look at all those
there's,
awesome people.
Yep.
definitely, it's an insane team effort at Telltale. Everyone is sort of involved in everything, and there was a sort of open floor plan where everyone was encouraged to walk
Javier
around
Espinosa, he's one
and
of
talk
the
to
zombie
each other.
voices.
Oh yeah, that's
as
right.
well as my hero.
Oh, a lot of people did zombie deaths. There was like a whole recording session where people would just go in, exactly, and people would go in and chug water and then do
Yeah.
zombie death noises.
Oh, I know.
and-
That was awesome.
It's
I
pretty
remember
easy.
the day Jolie went into the booth to scream for that one dying lady,
Mhm.
and everyone you could still hear it out of the soundproof room that Lazar was recording in.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then when she came out, everyone just kind of applauded.
You know what it was? What it reminded me. Rhoda, who was who worked at Telltale on the administration side. She'd been there for a long time. In Narnia, which was the undeveloped backspace of the
place we
Telltale
were not
studio,
supposed
where we're
to
not
be
supposed
in.
to be, but ended up being a meeting room because
was the
everything else was
greatest
booked.
room. Yeah.
And they were doing recording, I think, for the prototype of Walking Dead season 1. Oh yeah,
she
it
was the
because
lady in the prototype.
She plays the lady
That
in the
makes sense,
prototype,
that makes sense.
and she's basically in there just screaming bloody murder. And someone downstairs in the other building called the police or called Telltale to saying they were going to call the police or something.
Oh man.
And we were hearing it in the office, and it sounded terrifying.
I'm
It
sure.
was not a good moment to be sitting there at your desk going like, is everything
They're
okay?
making games.
Well, I tell you, if you're a voice actor
just gonna
and
say.
you're doing video games and you have to audition at home, it's best to
In your
have
closet.
a house, not a apartment.
I live in an
Right.
apartment, but I'm very close with my neighbors. I'm like, if you ever hear screaming,
Text me first.
Yeah. Especially if it sounds like military commands or get down.
Give me the gun, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's hard to. You don't want to yell that in your apartment.
Oh
Man,
Lord,
oh, man.
that was thank you, Kent, for
this is-
guiding us
Oh,
through that.
Thank you all for
controlling.
coming.
Of course.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
by
Thanks,
the way,
guys.
you know, we talked a lot about Telltale, which we all love, but thank you, Skybound.
Yes.
Yes, for
Yeah.
sure.
Because when Telltale went under, Skybound stepped
Stepped
up,
in.
and I can't imagine how the fans would have felt if this story didn't come to
It
a
would have been
conclusion.
it was it was
Oh, it
literally
would have been
devastating.
horrific.
and
It would have been horrific.
Yeah.
So, Skybound,
yeah.
Yeah.
we salute you.
For sure.
Yes,
Cheers to Skybound.
indeed.
Well, and
Confetti
you guys
everywhere.
with the season 4 team, if the game had come out and not been good and satisfying, then everyone would have just said,
Exactly.
"Oh man, they should have not ended it." And
Yeah.
people aren't saying that, so that's like the
No.
highest
Exactly.
praise.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
There's
been
criticism, but no
amazing.
one's like, none of this should have existed.
exactly.
Ever.
No,
Yeah.
which
So
is the
win.
easy troll internet
Totally.
thing to
Right.
do. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been an amazing journey in general. So we got to finish it.
Hello, person who just watched this video. You should definitely watch the seasons 2, 3, and 4 commentary. You just have to back out one menu and you'll see them all. They're pretty good too.